Death is not the opposite of life, but a part of it. You feel it, don't you? The quiet shadow that lingers at the edge of your awareness. You go about your day, immersed in screens, meetings, conversations, social media scrolls, and yet beneath it all, there is a pulse, a reminder that your time is finite. Most of us avoid this thought, disguise it with noise and distraction, pretending that it will never arrive. But death does not wait. It does not negotiate. It is the ultimate shadow, silent, relentless, and unavoidable. You cannot reason it away. You cannot work it off. You cannot scroll past it. It waits for everyone, equally, impartially, and in pretending it does not exist, you build a fragile castle on sand. Look around. Society trains you to chase comfort, pleasure, and approval as if they were shields against mortality. You are told, stay busy, be entertained, seek validation, buy things, be like. These are illusions, mirrors, reflecting a temporary self, a fleeting ego, a house of cards built on the shifting wind of other people's attention. You post the highlight reels of your life, hoping they will obscure the shadow. You seek likes, comments, and approval, believing they make you immortal. But every moment of validation is borrowed time. Every smile or compliment a temporary reprieve. Behind the laughter, behind the meetings, behind the endless scrolling, the shadow waits, and its patient persistence reminds you of what nothing else can, that all your distractions are fragile, temporary, and powerless. Imagine standing in a silent room, alone with your thoughts. No phone, no social media, no schedule, no escape. In that silence, you hear the truth that society hides. Life ends. You will age. You will falter. You will fall. Your achievements, your possessions, your relationships, they cannot stop the inevitable. Most people panic at this thought, flinch, and turn back to their distractions. But you are being asked to stay here, to sit in the stillness long enough to feel it. The confrontation with death is not morbid. It is clarifying. It is the beginning of seeing life as it truly is, not as the stories you tell yourself to feel safe. Every culture dresses death in euphemism. Funerals, rituals, even humor attempt to soften the blow. But this is deception. The truth pierces through the decor. Death is absolute. The question is not whether you will face it, but whether you can face it consciously, awake and aware. To confront the shadow is not to court despair. It is to strip away illusions, to see the thin veneer of comfort for what it is. Every fleeting pleasure, every borrowed approval, every distraction that keeps you busy, these are fragile walls against a storm that will not be denied. You cannot hide. Ignoring death does not grant immortality. Every heartbeat brings you closer. Every breath is a silent step toward the final threshold. The invitation is not to fear it more, but to see it clearly, to recognize it as a companion rather than an enemy. To embrace mortality is to awaken to life itself. You stand now at the edge of awareness, where the shadow is visible, dark and undeniable. Will you step back into comfort, or will you look straight into the eyes of the shadow and begin the journey that truly matters? Face the shadow and you begin to live. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. You live surrounded by illusions. You tell yourself that comfort is real, that pleasure shields you from pain, that validation from others is proof of worth. You buy gadgets, clothes, experiences, hoping they will fill the silent gaps inside you. You binge on content, scroll endlessly, chase fleeting highs, laugh at distractions, thinking they make life safe. But these comforts are mirages. They shimmer in your hands and vanish the moment you look too closely. The relationship you cling to for security may crumble overnight. The applause you crave from colleagues or followers may fade in a single comment or a single day. Every pursuit that promises permanence hides fragility. The house of comfort is built on sand, and storms, illness, loss, failure, death wait silently at the edges. You cannot outrun them. You cannot control them. You can only pretend. And in that pretending, the shadow grows, feeding on the cracks in your understanding, whispering that nothing is truly yours. Love, too, is often misplaced. You chase approval like a starving person chasing breadcrumbs, mistaking attention for connection, lust for intimacy, convenience for devotion. You give pieces of yourself to people who only reflect what they want to see. You dress your mask carefully to earn affection, hoping it will hold. You scroll through social media, measuring likes and comments, believing they are a mirror of love. But it is shallow. It is temporary. True connection is rare, and yet you settle for the echo of approval, the fleeting warmth of someone else's gaze. Beneath it, emptiness waits. The mask that earns praise is not your face. It is a costume, and every time you choose the costume over the mirror of authenticity, a part of your soul grows smaller, quieter, more fractured. You lose touch with the pulse of your real self, trading vitality for illusion. Avoidance has a cost. Every time you distract yourself, every time you ignore the truth of mortality or the depth of your own emotions, a subtle erosion occurs. You think that ignoring pain will preserve you, that dodging discomfort will protect life's brightness. But the opposite happens. Life's edges sharpen. Joy feels brittle, relationships hollow, and even your own presence becomes a faint echo. Fear grows in silence, weaving threads into your choices, guiding your actions without your consent. The shadow waits patiently, letting you pretend that nothing is wrong while it deepens its roots. Avoidance is seductive because it feels safe, but safety is a lie. Each day you evade the truth. You drift farther from yourself, from the clarity that comes when you finally face what has been hidden. The quiet terror of passing time grows unrecognized, until one day the illusions crumble, leaving you with only the raw, unmediated reality. To live fully, you must confront these mirages. You must see that comfort can be a trick, love can be borrowed, and avoidance is a slow poison. Only then can you begin to distinguish what is eternal from what is ephemeral. Only then can you reclaim the pieces of yourself scattered in pursuit of illusion. To live consciously is not easy. It demands courage, honesty, and the willingness to sit with discomfort. Yet within that confrontation lies freedom. The mirror of life becomes clear. The shadows shrink, not because they vanish, but because you no longer give them power over your choices. Face the illusion and you find what is. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You feel it in the quiet moments, the choices you do not fully understand. You snap at someone for no reason. You freeze when opportunity knocks. You are drawn to the same patterns over and over, wondering why life feels like a series of invisible strings pulling you in directions you did not choose. These are not coincidences. They are the whispers of your unhealed wounds. Trauma, neglect, shame, fear. They are silent dictators. They speak in habits, in avoidance, in attraction to what harms you and repulsion from what nurtures you. You may think you are free, that your decisions are your own, but the shadow has been guiding you quietly, invisibly, while you pretend to be awake. Every wound carries a memory, a lesson unlearned, a pain denied. Imagine a room filled with broken mirrors, each reflecting a distorted fragment of your soul. You glance at the world and see only pieces of yourself, shattered, refracted, incomplete. When a childhood betrayal lingers, you seek approval desperately. When abandonment scares you, you cling to relationships that mirror the pain. These wounds are puppeteers with invisible strings, guiding your steps without your consent. You may chase success, love, validation, or escape, unaware that each pursuit is influenced by the shadows of the past. The more you ignore them, the stronger they become. Every unspoken grief, every suppressed rage, every hidden fear compounds, embedding itself in your decisions, your patterns, your personality. You do not notice it, because the shadow is a master of disguise. It hides in your everyday life, turning normal life into a labyrinth you cannot escape without facing yourself. The shadow is not merely darkness, it is also a mirror. It reflects the parts of yourself you refuse to acknowledge. The jealousy, the fear, the desire, the vulnerability. You see these traits in others and react, often with judgment or avoidance, unaware that they are echoes of your own denied self. You lash out at someone's arrogance, but it is your own suppressed pride reflected back. You recoil at someone's selfishness, yet it is a fragment of your own repressed impulse. When you recognize the mirror, the world becomes a teacher, and your emotional responses are no longer accidents. They are signals pointing directly to the parts of you that need attention. Jung called this the shadow, the unseen, unclaimed, and often rejected territory within yourself. It holds your power, your unacknowledged desires, your fears, and your truths. To ignore it is to live fragmented. To confront it is to begin integration. This cycle continues quietly, invisibly, until you intervene. Wounds guide attraction and repulsion, fear and desire, leaving patterns in their wake. You fear rejection because you were once abandoned. You cling to control because chaos once shattered you. You avoid death and deep emotional truth because the pain of loss has never been faced. The consequences are subtle but profound. Relationships suffer, careers stagnate, inner peace feels impossible. Every day the shadow nudges you, drawing you into repetition until patterns become habits and habits become destiny. But this loop is not inevitable. Awareness, honesty, and courage are the keys to breaking free. By naming the influence, observing the triggers, and daring to feel the pain, you dissolve the invisible chains. You turn the puppeteer into a guide. The wound no longer dictates, it teaches. The shadow, once feared, becomes a map. Your life will never be fully liberated until you embrace the shadows within. They will always exist, but when seen clearly, they stop controlling you unconsciously. You recognize the patterns, understand the triggers, and reclaim choice over your life. The same forces that once dictated fear, anger, and avoidance now fuel insight, courage, and growth. Each step toward awareness shrinks the shadows, transforms the wounds, and redirects the currents that once swept you unconsciously. Fear of loss, fear of mortality, fear of the self itself. These lose their grip when you meet the shadow, face it honestly, and integrate it into your living awareness. What was once invisible becomes illuminated. What was once silent now speaks as a teacher. What was once a chain becomes a bridge. Face your wounds and the shadow becomes your guide. You are not what the world told you to be. You are what remains when the masks fall. Everything you built begins to crack. The masks you wore, polished smiles, confident gestures, perfect social media posts, they shatter quietly at first, then with a thunderous intensity that leaves no part of you untouched. You realize the applause you chased, the approval you sought, the identity you curated for others. It was never yours. The persona that seemed so solid is a house of mirrors, reflecting only what society expected, not what you truly are. In a meeting, a comment pierces deeper than intended. A friend's criticism echoes in a room of silence inside you. Even your reflection in the mirror feels unfamiliar. These facades collapse because they were never built on truth. They were constructed on fear, on avoidance, on shadows disguised as safety. You feel the floor beneath you dissolve, and for the first time you see the fragility of the life you thought was strong. The void is immediate. You feel unanchored. The self you believed was real scattered into fragments like leaves in a storm. Routine, possessions, relationships, they offer no foothold. Anxiety pulses like electricity through your veins. You reach for comfort and find only emptiness. Memory and emotion twist together, forming a storm of confusion. Past choices seem meaningless, future possibilities uncertain. Even the most familiar relationships feel strange. You question every decision, every dream, every word you've ever spoken. The disorientation is visceral, cinematic in its intensity, as if the world itself has tilted and you are spinning weightless in a room with no walls. This is the terror of fragmentation, the feeling of losing your identity to the forces you ignored, the shadow you denied, the illusions you trusted. The silence of unknowing presses on your chest, heavy and suffocating. Yet, within this collapse lies a strange, painful clarity. The chaos exposes the truth that comfort, facade, and avoidance could never reveal. Pain becomes the teacher. Every tear, every shiver of panic, every heartbeat of despair illuminates a piece of yourself that has been hidden. You see the areas where fear dictated your life, the corners where shame held dominion, the parts of your shadow you refused to meet. Each fragment of your broken self is an invitation to reconstruction, a chance to reclaim authenticity. The collapse is not defeat, it is a necessary unmaking, the clearing of old patterns so that what remains is real. You begin to notice the subtle power of being raw, vulnerable, and unmasked. The emotional storm, once terrifying, becomes a portal to insight. The pieces are not lost. They are waiting for integration, for the conscious shaping of a self that has never been seen before. You begin to breathe in the chaos rather than fight it. The fracture of identity, though painful, allows you to disentangle from illusions, to release borrowed expectations, to encounter the raw, unfiltered self. Shadows are no longer just oppressors, they are maps. Every tremor of fear, every pang of loss, every moment of disorientation points to where growth is possible. Pain, once a signal of weakness, now illuminates a path. The collapse teaches you that strength is not in resistance, but in the acceptance of what is, in the courage to witness yourself fully, and in the resolve to rebuild consciously. This is the threshold where fear transforms into understanding, and where vulnerability births resilience. You are not the sum of appearances. You are the conscious witness, the architect of your own emerging self. Embrace the collapse, and the pieces will teach you who you truly are. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing themselves. You realize now that much of what you called love was never love at all. The validation you chased, the relationships you clung to, the approval you sought, they were illusions, shallow echoes of connection. You believed that fitting in, being liked, being chosen, was proof that you mattered, but belonging built on masks, on pretense, on convenience, was never true. It was a temporary warmth, a borrowed light, like shadows cast on a wall. It seemed real until you stepped closer and felt nothing but emptiness. Social media likes, casual compliments, fleeting attention, they can feel like love, but they are fragile, ephemeral, and blind to your true self. Real connection does not ask you to hide your cracks. Real connection sees the brokenness and remains. The first step in reclaiming your life is naming the difference. This was never love, and the emptiness you felt was never your fault. You were seeking truth in mirrors that could not reflect it. Solitude becomes your teacher. At first, it feels like exile, a punishment you cannot escape. You stare into silence, into the quiet spaces where your own voice, unfiltered, begins to speak. In these moments, you confront yourself without distraction, your fears, your desires, your truths. The world no longer dictates your sense of worth. The shadow and the silence do. Loneliness is not emptiness. It is a lens. It shows who you are when no one is watching. When you sit with yourself long enough, the illusions peel away and authenticity begins to bloom. You discover that being alone does not make you incomplete. It makes you whole in ways that borrowed attachments never could. Every habit of people-pleasing, every reflexive need for validation is illuminated under this light. Solitude strips away the pretense and leaves clarity, a raw but honest reflection of self. Now, you reclaim your value. The experiences that once hurt you, the betrayals, the rejection, the shallow comforts, transform under your gaze. They are lessons, not failures. Each heartbreak, each disappointment, each illusion of love becomes a map to the truths you ignored. You see that your self-worth was never dependent on others' recognition. It was always inside you, waiting for you to notice. The mirrors that reflected falsity now guide insight. You learn to measure life by authenticity, not appearances. Pain ceases to be punishment. It becomes instruction. Every moment that once caused despair now serves as a foothold, a stepping stone toward conscious living. You understand that freedom comes from this reclamation, from choosing yourself over borrowed affection, from grounding worth in presence rather than applause. You do not need validation to prove your significance. You do not need approval to feel whole. Every day, you strengthen the habit of seeing clearly, loving yourself without compromise, and walking your path without fear of rejection or misunderstanding. The world may still offer illusions. Friends, lovers, colleagues, social media, culture, all continue to present shadows as comfort, but you no longer mistake them for truth. You move with discernment, embracing relationships that reflect honesty, while letting the rest pass like wind over water. Solitude no longer terrifies, it empowers. Past pain no longer weighs, it guides. You are learning to trust the rhythm of your own heart, rather than the applause of strangers. Each moment of self-recognition, each choice rooted in truth, reinforces your independence, your clarity, your integrity. The false lights of validation no longer blind you. You stand in the brightness of your own authenticity, calm, centered, unshaken. It was never love, and now I choose myself. You cannot change what you do not confront. You stand before the shadow, long and silent, stretching across the corners of your mind. For years, you ran, avoiding fear, ignoring desire, burying truth beneath layers of distraction. But the shadow waits. It does not yell. It does not threaten. It simply exists, patient and unyielding, a mirror to everything you refuse to see. Meeting it requires intention. You must pause, breathe, and look directly into the dark reflection of yourself. The process is not gentle. You recall moments of anger you denied, impulses you shamed, regrets you ignored. You face these truths one by one, naming them, feeling them, acknowledging them. It is cinematic in its intensity, a quiet storm of recognition that shakes the foundations of your ego. Confronting the shadow is not surrender, it is active engagement. Every suppressed fear that surfaces is a signal, every hidden desire a guide. You do not erase the shadow, you walk into its presence fully awake, alert and willing to learn. You touch the raw edges of your psyche and find clarity. Once recognized, the shadow can become your ally. It is no longer a source of unconscious control or silent sabotage. Each trait you feared, the jealousy, the selfishness, the rage, the longing, holds a key to power when integrated. You may feel the temptation to reject it, to push it back into the darkness. But true strength comes from embracing what was once denied. The traits you resisted contain energy, insight, and creativity. By acknowledging them, you reclaim autonomy over impulses and emotions that previously directed your life. You feel the tension shift. Fear transforms into understanding, weakness into capability. The shadow is no longer an enemy lurking in your mind. It is a teacher, a mirror, and a guide. Acceptance does not soften the intensity. It sharpens your perception, your decisiveness, your presence. Every choice becomes deliberate. Every step moves with awareness. You walk through life not as a victim of unseen forces, but as the master of your own inner world. Suffering, once unbearable, becomes a forge. Each challenge, each heartbreak, each confrontation with the shadow tempers your spirit like molten metal shaped by fire. Pain is no longer punishment, it is a bridge. You climb from the darkness, step by step, learning the contours of yourself, feeling the weight of unclaimed strength. You discover resilience in the spaces where fear once dominated. Every scar, every wound, every moment of struggle transforms into a mark of mastery. The cinematic imagery emerging from the abyss is not metaphor alone, it is real, palpable. The shadow that once chained you now illuminates the path forward. You feel the surge of power that comes from understanding your depths, embracing discomfort and daring to walk with honesty. Through suffering, the self is forged, refined, and strengthened. You are no longer fragmented, you are integrated, whole and capable of facing life with clarity, courage, and determination. This journey is not quick. Shadows return, old patterns tempt, and fear lingers at thresholds. But each encounter leaves you stronger, each engagement more insightful, each step more deliberate. You learn to navigate internal landscapes with precision, to harness the energy of suppressed impulses without being consumed, and to transform past pain into guidance. Empowerment is not the absence of darkness, it is the mastery of it. You begin to realize that the shadow is not a prison, but a ladder. You climb it consciously, using its weight and depth to propel yourself into awareness, freedom, and authenticity. Each confrontation, each reflection, each moment of courage builds a self that is unshakable, grounded, and alive. The journey through darkness is no longer feared. It is chosen, embraced, and trusted. Meet your shadow, and power rises from within. Life is not fulfilled by avoiding the dark, but by learning to move through it with open eyes. You finally see it. Acceptance is liberation. The shadow, once a source of fear, is now a teacher. Death, once a looming terror, becomes a natural rhythm, a pulse of life rather than an enemy at the gates. When you stop resisting what is inevitable, fear loses its grip. The energy you once spent on avoidance, worry, and distraction is reclaimed. You breathe more deeply, move more deliberately, and notice the subtle beauty in ordinary moments. The fragility of life no longer terrifies you. It sharpens your awareness, makes each interaction, each breath, each choice feel more vivid, more significant. You carry the shadow not as a burden, but as a companion, a map of your internal landscape. You honor the truth of mortality, and in doing so, you discover freedom that no external approval or comfort could ever provide. The realization is quiet, almost imperceptible, yet profound. When you embrace what was once feared, you step into your own sovereignty. Daily life becomes a reflection of this inner peace. You move through the world with grounded presence, responding rather than reacting. The anxieties that once dominated your mornings fade because you recognize them as echoes of old wounds, not commands to be obeyed. Relationships shift. You connect with authenticity, not performance. Work, obligations, even setbacks no longer trigger panic or compulsive avoidance. They are opportunities to practice steadiness, reflection, and conscious choice. Your solitude is no longer a void, but a sanctuary where clarity grows. Every quiet moment, every mindful pause, strengthens the rhythm of calm. You begin to notice the subtle joy in a sunrise, the calm in a deep conversation, the richness of being fully present. The shadows of the past no longer chain you. They are integrated, woven into a resilient, harmonious self. You discover that true courage is not in grand gestures, but in the daily act of living consciously with awareness and with compassion for yourself and others. Now, the invitation extends beyond insight. It becomes action. Life will still challenge you. Death will still wait. The shadow will return with whispers and tremors, but you are no longer powerless. You are awake. You choose presence over avoidance. You choose clarity over illusion. You step into each moment with quiet courage, aware of impermanence yet unshaken. Each choice to act consciously, to face discomfort, to honor your inner truth, reinforces the peace you carry. The world may offer chaos, distraction, and false comforts, but you navigate with intention, moving through life like water flowing around rocks, flexible, resilient, and luminous. The shadow and mortality are no longer enemies. They are companions, shaping a life lived fully and fearlessly. In this acceptance you find not despair but hope, not fragility but strength, not isolation but profound connection with the essence of being. Face life fully, and peace will find you.